was recently told that I should try ASMR. I've heard of it before, but didn't know much about it. And I don't know where to begin. I thought I might start by reading an excerpt from one of my favorite books, Siddhartha, by Herman Hesse. The Brahmin's Son. In the shade of the house, in the sunshine near the boats on the riverbank, in the shade of the sal forest, in the shade of the fig tree, Siddhartha grew up, the beautiful son of the Brahmin, the young falcon, together with Govinda, his friend, the son of the Brahmin. Sun tanned Siddhartha's light shoulders on the riverbank when he bathed, when he performed his holy ablutions, his holy offerings. Shade flowed into his black eyes in the mango grove, during boyhood games, during his mother's singing, during the holy offerings, during the teachings of his father, the scholar, during the conversations of the sages. Siddhartha had long been taking part in the conversations of the sages, practicing the verbal battle with Govinda, practicing the art of contemplation with Govinda, the service of meditation. He already knew how to soundlessly speak the Om, the word of words, soundlessly speak it to himself, breathing it in, soundlessly speak it out of himself, breathing it out with all his soul, his forehead enveloped in the luster of his clear-thinking mind. He already understood how to know Atman in his innermost being, indestructible, at one with the universe. Joy leaped in his father's heart about the son, the intelligent boy, thirsty for knowledge, and he saw him growing up to be a great sage and priest, a prince among the Brahmins. Bliss leaped in his mother's breast when she saw him, when she saw his striding, saw him sitting down and standing up, Siddhartha the strong, the beautiful boy, striding on slender legs, greeting her with perfect breeding. Love stirred in the hearts of the young Brahmin daughters when Siddhartha passed through the streets of the town, with his radiant brow, with his royal eyes, with his narrow hips. But more than anyone else, Govinda loved him, his friend, the Brahmin's son. He loved Siddhartha's eyes and lovely voice. He loved the way he talked and the perfect breeding of his movements. He loved everything that Siddhartha said and did, and most of all, he loved his mind, his lofty, fiery thoughts, his glowing will, his high calling. Govinda knew that Siddhartha would become no ordinary Brahmin, no lazy sacrificial official, no grasping peddler of spells, no vain and empty orator, no evil, deceitful priest, and no good, stupid sheep in the herd of the many. No, nor did he, Govinda, wish to become any of those, a Brahmin like the other 10,000. He wanted to follow Siddhartha, the splendid, beloved. And someday, when Siddhartha became a god, someday, when he joined the Radiant Ones, then Govinda would follow him, as his friend, as his companion, as his servant, as his lance-bearer, his shadow. They all loved Siddhartha. He brought joy to all. He delighted them all. But Siddhartha did not bring joy to himself. He did not delight himself. Walking along the rosy paths of the fig orchard, sitting in the bluish shade of the grove of contemplation, washing his limbs in the daily bath of atonement, sacrificing in the densely shaded mango forest, with perfect breeding of his gestures, loved by all, a joy to all, he nevertheless bore no joy in his heart. Dreams came to him, and fretful thoughts flowing from the water of the river, twinkling from the stars of the night, from the sun's melting rays. Dreams came to him, and restlessness of his soul smoked from the offerings, breathed from the verses of the Rig Veda, dripped from the teachings of the old Brahmins. Siddhartha had started nursing discontent within himself. He had started feeling that his father's love, and his mother's love, and also his friend Govinda's love, would not make him happy forever and always, not please him, gratify him, satisfy him. He had begun to sense that his venerable father and his other teachers, that the wise Brahmins, had already imparted to him the bulk and the best of their knowledge, that they had already poured their fullness into his waiting vessel, and the vessel was not full. His mind was not contented. His soul was not tranquil. His heart not sated. The ablutions were good, but they were water. They did not wash away sin. They did not slake the thirst of the mind. They did not calm the fright of the heart. Splendid were the offerings and the invokings of the gods, but was that all there was? Did the offerings bring happiness? And what about the gods? Was it really Prajapati who had created the world? Was it not Atman, he, the only one, the all one? Were not the gods formations created like me and you, subject to time, ephemeral? So was it good? Was it right? Was it a sublime and meaningful act to sacrifice to the gods? To whom else should one sacrifice? To whom else was veneration due but to him, the only one, Atman? And where was Atman to be found? Where did he dwell? Where did his eternal heart beat, if not in one's own self, in the innermost, in the indestructible essence that every person bore within? But where was this self, this innermost, this ultimate? It was not flesh and blood. It was not thinking or consciousness. That was what the wisest teach. But then where was it? To pierce there, to the self, to myself, to Atman, was there any other path worth seeking? Ah, but no one showed this path. No one knew it. Not his father, not the teachers and sages, not the holy sacrificial chants. They knew everything, the Brahmins and their holy books. They knew everything. They had concerned themselves with everything, and with more than everything. The creation of the world, the genesis of speech, of food, of inhaling, of exhaling, the orders of the senses, the deeds of the gods. They knew an infinite amount. But was it worthwhile knowing all this if you did not know the one and only, the most important, the only important thing? True, many verses in the holy books, especially in the Upanishads of Samaveda, spoke about this innermost and ultimate, glorious verses. Thy soul is the entire world, they said, and it was written that in sleep, in deep sleep, a human being goes into his innermost and dwells in Atman. Wonderful wisdom was in these verses. All the wisdom of the wisest was gathered here in magical words, as pure as honey gathered by bees. No, there was no disdaining the tremendous amount of knowledge collected and preserved here by countless generations of wise Brahmins. But where were the Brahmins? Where the priests? Where the sages or penitents who had succeeded in not only knowing this deepest knowledge, but also living it? Where was the initiate who spirited his home in Atman, from sleeping to waking, to living, at every step and turn, in word and deed? Siddhartha knew many venerable Brahmins, above all his father, the pure, the learned, the supremely venerable man. Admirable was his father, still and noble was his bearing, pure was his life, wise were his words, fine and noble thoughts dwelled in his brow. But even he, the man who knew so much, did he live in bliss? Was he at peace? Was he not also a seeker, a thirster? Did he not always and always again have to drink, a thirster, from the holy sources, from the sacrifices, from the books, from the dialogues of the Brahmins? Why must he, the irreproachable man, wash away sin every day, strive for purification every day anew? Was Atman not in him? Did not the primal source flow in his own heart? One had to find it, the primal source in one's own self. One had to make it one's own. Everything else was seeking, was detour, was confusion. Those were Siddhartha's thoughts. That was his thirst. That was his suffering. I'd like to stop here and take this opportunity to thank you for listening. Hopefully, I'll get to do some more of these in the future. And if you're interested in reading more of Siddhartha by Herman Hesse, it's available from Penguin Books. Thank you, and be well.